A founder can never be hands off. They have to be hands on. You can't take emotions rule over you.
हम सिखाकर तैयार करते हैं, दूसरा कंपनी उसको ज्यादा पैकेज देती है and obviously sometimes they leave. What do you think how this could be handled?
Nobody is irreplaceable. You'll find right people. You'll find people who are more aligned to the vision. You'll find people who will contribute to the culture. If somebody comes to you and said, I have decided to move on, it is 99% that person is going to move out. Anything which goes wrong on the banking side, any major event that you can think of, right, that is going to have impact on fintechs.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the insights, and I'll try to ask the question that you might have, and I was asking in the group as well to drop in the questions so that we can get the answers that we are looking for. So let's begin from here. So while discussing in the morning, I casually asked you that you were the part of the founding team, the fourth person to join in the Razorpay. So tell me, how is it work? How is it like working with the founders? क्योंकि being a founders ourselves, we know कि हमारी टीम तो परेशान हो जाती है. हर दूसरे दिन हमें कुछ आइडिया आता है. आज हम एक स्ट्रेटजी इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं, फिर कल हम उसको चेंज भी करते हैं. So how was it like? How were the founders back then, and how you handled this?
So I think काम तो हम लोग ही कर रहे होते हैं. So I think jokes apart, but I think so a lot of time the founders. So it's important for you to have different sort of clarity about what founder's role is and what your role is and the rest of the team's role is, right? Founder's role is. So can I ask this question to everyone? Like, what is founder's role in the company? Alignment, okay. Decision making, okay. Taking risk, okay. Okay. Define vision of the company, okay. Anything and everything, okay. Okay.
On point.
Automate everything, okay. My take on this is very different. My take on this is founder's role is to keep the company alive. That's it. In one single line, right? Their job is to survival. वो हर चीज वो करेगा फाउंडर, जो कि अगर पैसा चाहिए पैसा लाएगा, ऑटोमेशन चाहिए ऑटोमेशन लाएगा, बट फाउंडर्स रोल इज टू कीप द कंपनी अलाइव. And when you come to the second layer of the things, they are the one who are responsible for execution, right? So like my responsibility was to primarily do anything and everything that is possible. So operations करना है, support करना है, इनकी team setup करनी है, 0 to 1 growth करनी है. The problem statement will come from them, but we were the ones who were executing it on the ground. So it's important for you to. So in the early days, most like large part of the responsibility that Harshit Shashank played, at least I'm talking about my first 6 months of joining, was to do the fundraise. Right? We were very clear कि fundraising कैसे कितनी important है, and we went out and like met a lot of investors. So just to give a reference point, can you take a guess of how many angels we had in the first round?
10.
10, okay. 100 कहाँ एंजल देख लिया यार. फरिश्तों की बात हो रही है. We had 35 angels.
Oh.
Right? And you imagine अगर आज आपको 5 लाख का चेक किसी को देना है, आप अपना कितना diligence करोगे? And they did that diligence 35 times. Right? So that is where I'm not saying that is the only work that they did, but for the survival, that was the first task that they had picked. They spent a lot of time in getting the money in the bank account, and we were the one who was. So I was the one responsible to do sales. I was the one who was responsible to set up team, hire, whatever the work that I could do. So somebody said automate, so probably I was the automation for founders at that point in time.
बट ऐसा भी होता है ना बहुत बार कि आज फॉर एग्जांपल फाउंडर्स ने कहा हम इसको इस तरह से करेंगे, एंड यू प्लान द एंटायर थिंग एंड यू मैनेज टू एग्जीक्यूट इट, बट नेक्स्ट डे ही गॉट सम न्यू क्रेजी आइडिया. मयंक को हमेशा आते हैं, मतलब every other day I am the listener for him. And what happens if I say heads up for one idea, जब तक बोले हाँ इट्स गुड, पता चलता ऑफिस में एग्जीक्यूट भी हो गया. So this might happen, right? So how do you handle this? How to keep the founders at pace? Can give it some time. Let's wait. Let's wait for this strategy to give some result. How do you do this? I mean, उनको रोका कैसे जाता है?
उनको बोलो आप कर लो अगर change हो रहा है.
Finally, I got the answer.
Yeah. नहीं, and हमारे founders उनके कुछ डालते कहते ठीक है मत कर, मैं कर लूंगा. Right. Because the one good thing about our founders is that while they both come from, like Harshit comes from mechanical engineering and Shashank comes from computer science, they both did both side of work. They both did coding. They both did, like, while their role is defined. I'm not saying their role is not defined, but they did both side of work. They had done coding. They also had gone for like they used to do sales, they used to look at operation, they used to do support, they used to do everything. So yeah, they had a full visibility of whatever is happening. So I don't think things can happen without getting your hands dirty. A founder can never be hands off. They have to be hands on. They have to go to the last mile and understand कि ये problem कहाँ अटकी हुई है. अगर मेरी selling नहीं हो रही तो वो क्यों नहीं हो रही. That can only happen once they are on the field and selling themselves. They're always selling, always selling. Like when I was talking about the first problem statement about fundraise and talking to 25 angels, at that time when I used to ask, so they were in US and I was in India. I was managing operations and sales. So I used to ask them कि क्या चल रहा है. So they used to then in the morning they used to go and meet investors, do the selling to the investors, pitching to the investors. एंड रात को वापस आके जब यहाँ पे दोपहर हो रही है या सुबह हो रही है तो वो हमारे साथ इंटरेक्ट करके हमसे प्रोडक्ट बनवाते थे. तो दे यूज्ड टू वर्क 25 hours in a day, right? And it went to the point where they are sleeping and they are still blabbering the pitch of Razorpay. So you have to get to that level of passion, right? Because it's your family at the end of it. You have to fail for it. So वो हुआ है उतना लेवल का. So whenever the ideas change and all, like we understood, like we as employees also understood where are they coming from, what is the reason for this change, right? And it's important for you to sell that new idea very well. कि अब अगर टीम सोचते रही कि हर 4 घंटे में आदमी फ्लिप होता है तो वो भी कहेगी मेरे को नहीं रहना इसके साथ, राइट? So you have to either whatever the new idea is changing, you have to make an effort to explain that new idea very well to the team.
Apart from this, right, I mean, I understood, like, changes, like, it's good for the company that founders always bring in, but there is one perspective, like, strategies should be stable as well. You cannot flip them or change them every now and then. So can you put some thoughts on it, how much it is important to stabilize a strategy and work on it for some time, and what kind of results you can expect? And this requires a continuous execution, at least for a time period. So how much it is important?
I don't agree that strategy does not have to be stable. Strategy have to be flexible. Your mission is constant.
Mhm.
Your vision changes, but it changes on a larger tenure. It changes in annual cycles or couple of years of cycle. Your vision is going to evolve. And your strategies, depending on what scale you are at, it has to be flexible. Like we changed our strategy from going to education to startups in 3 to 6 months. We executed and we said, अरे ये तो नई segment हो पाएगा. We can't wait for an annual plan to open up and then हम change करेंगे. At that stage तो annual plan होता भी नहीं था. अब हम लोग annual planning वगैरह बहुत extensively करते हैं, तब नहीं करते थे. Right? So your strategy have to be flexible. But what is important is for every single person to be aligned to that strategy. आप decide करो ये 3 चीज करोगे आप, इस quarter करोगे या जो भी आप जिस भी time पे हो करते हो. But वो 3 चीजें should be top of mind for every single person in the company. हो जाएंगे वो 3 चीज, कोई problem नहीं. We can change that 3 things later. You will have to keep experimenting, you have to keep iterating and fail fast and then execute and pivot to a new strategy.
Fair enough. In your presentation, I have seen that the PMF journey for Razorpay was from 2014 to 2018, right? It's a 4-year long, right? इतने में तो पेशेंस ही लूज हो जाता है. बहुत से स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स तो प्रोडक्ट छोड़ भी देते हैं, बहुत सी स्टार्टअप जर्नीज स्टॉप भी हो जाती हैं. सो हाउ डिड यू गाइस केप्ट इट मूविंग? 4 साल बहुत लंबा टाइम होता है. एक प्रोडक्ट को इटरेट करते रहना, पिवट करते रहना एंड टू ट्राई टू फाइंड आउट हाउ टू मेक इट वर्क। और ऐसे में बहुत से आपके टीम मेंबर्स होते होंगे जो छोड़ भी देते होंगे, राइट? बिकॉज दे लूज मोटिवेशन। यार फाउंडर्स को नहीं पता है कि व्हाट दे आर ट्राइंग टू बिल्ड एंड आई एम नॉट गोना वेस्ट माय करियर हियर। हाउ टू हैंडल दोस 4 years and still keep on growing?
So two elements to it, like look at it from a demand and supply point of view. So if you have a validation of a demand कि मेरा कस्टमर को ये जरूरत है एंड इस कस्टमर को ये जरूरत आगे बहुत बढ़ने वाली है, then that validation you can hold to your heart कि यार अगर इसका कस्टमर का प्रॉब्लम है, जेन्युइन प्रॉब्लम है, कोई और सॉल्व नहीं करा तो मैं तो सॉल्व करूंगा. Then you have to understand the supply part of it, which is why is this problem not being solved faster? So for us, the problem was not being solved faster because we were working with banks. And with no disrespect to the banks, I think banks, Indian banking system is amazingly stable and like amazingly large and complex. But for banks to move at startup space is not like not an easy thing to do. Banks take their time, right? जब हम payment gateway के लिए जाते थे, banks used to take 2 months of time. How did we solve that with the bank? We went to the bank and said कि okay, you break it down to us कि आपको 2 महीने क्यों लगता है. तब like it took us 6 months to understand that 2 month cycle. तो बैंक क्या करता था? Very simple. हमारे पास bunch of documents आते थे. I don't know, has anyone have business before 2015? कोई है? आपको okay. So do you remember applying for payment gateway at that time? Yeah. आपको वो डॉक्यूमेंट्स को फिल करके भेजना पड़ता था, इफ यू रिमेंबर, राइट? सो डॉक्यूमेंट्स आप फिल करोगे, हम लोग बैठ के उसका प्रिंट निकालते थे, एक एक डॉक्यूमेंट आपको एओए एमओए सब भेजना पड़ता था बैंक को, एंड देन दैट वी यूज्ड टू सेंड द प्रिंट ऑफ लाइक दिस मोटा, लाइक ऑलमोस्ट 100-200 पेजेस. एक एक को प्रिंट करके मैं वो पूरा गड्ढे लेके जाता था हर्षिल के पास, एंड हर्षिल साइन करो, योर ऑथराइज्ड सिग्नेटरी. Harshil took half an hour to sign each and every page. Then that used to go to the bank. We used to follow with the bank for 7 days, back to back. And at the end of 7 days, bank used to send that gaddi back with a reject on top. खत्म. हमने कहा पढ़ तो लेते यार, 100 पेज थे हमने यार, मतलब कुछ तो ये हमारी काम की इज्जत करो. तो नहीं करते थे, उनको नहीं करेंगे, उनके पास टाइम नहीं है. So it's a complexity of supply. And that is why for anyone else to enter this is not easy. Like अगर Razorpay नहीं कर पा रहा, कोई और भी नहीं कर पा रहा, so problem वही. So it took us time to understand कि why is bank thinking like that? Why is bank so taking like a month's time to understand an application, right? You can call it inefficiency, you can call it whatever you want to. But the core of the problem was that bank is risk averse. Bank का काम है risk management. That is their core work. Bank is always going to do risk management. So bank will never take a risk of a new startup जिनके बारे में उनको पता नहीं है, उनको उतना आइडिया नहीं है. They have not seen the journeys of those. तो बैंक यूज्ड टू से यार ये मेरे को नहीं पता ना, कल को भाग जाएगा, कल को चार्जबैक आ जाएंगे, तो मैं क्या करूंगा? To solve that, what we used to do was we worked with the bank and said कि how can we do this risk management on your behalf? हम कैसे कर सकते हैं? We built our own risk engine. We built our own onboarding engine. We did a pre-onboarding, post-onboarding risk management. We jointly worked with the bank. We reached a point जहाँ पे bank was satisfied and bank said, okay, ठीक है, now we are okay to automate for you. And that allowed us to reduce that onboarding journey from 2 months to 2 days.
So it was quite a journey, I would say. I mean, so many disagreements might have happened over the journey during this 4 years and in your entire journey with Razorpay. हमारे साथ भी हमारे बहुत से एम्प्लॉयज होते हैं, हमारे बहुत सारे उनसे क्लैशेस होते हैं, ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग कम, लड़ाई ज्यादा होती है. एंड वी ऑलवेज से गुड हेल्दी ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग इज अ गुड थिंग, बट देयर आर एट टाइम्स के बहुत फ्रस्ट्रेशन भी होता है कि नहीं? झगड़े होते हैं टीम से, स्पेशली हमारे जो मैनेजर्स, जो सीनियर्स होते हैं. एनी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम डिडंट यू थिंक यार हो गया मेरा काम, अब तो यहाँ से आई विल डू माय ओन और इधर आई विल लीव द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन? और ऐसे मोमेंट पे व्हाट डिड यू थिंक? how you know pass on this thought?
So see, झगड़े तो important है. I think I'll say कि अगर झगड़े आपके यहाँ पे नहीं हो रहे हैं तो then you are in a wrong place. झगड़े होने चाहिए. You need to give voice to people ना. अगर लोग बैठे हैं तो झगड़े करेंगे. And like see, you can always let emotions rule over. You can always like these thoughts might come in कि यार क्या चल रहा है, मेरी कोई सुनता नहीं है. But you never leave family, right? घर पे भी झगड़े होते हैं, बट आप ऐसे थोड़ी हो कि मैं जा रहा हूँ घर छोड़, चले भी जाओगे तो आता हूँ अगले दिन वापस कहाँ जाओगे? So that was like Razorpay is a family to me for all these 10 years. Like, good part of my life, I've been at Razorpay. Like, one third of my life is that significant portion is at Razorpay, and especially if you consider the maturity of it. So, I'm very much like, I feel very much part of Razorpay's culture. I feel nothing is somebody else's problem. I have to fix it. If it is the disagreement happening because it's an ego issue, then let's fix the ego. If the disagreement is happening because like I am not able to present that idea better, so I have to go and think about it. If the disagreement is happening because the idea is not available, so disagree and commit, khatam karo. But you don't leave the family, right? For छोटे मोटे reasons.
So the key is to resolve whatever is there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't take emotions rule over you. If you are letting emotions rule over you, तो एक झगड़ा झेल लोगे, दो झगड़े झेल लोगे, तीसरे झगड़े पे you will automatically pack your
So
bags.
this is the thing up to you, right? Now what happens below the line that works for you? अगर वहाँ ऐसे झगड़े होते हैं तो how do you handle? Because both they are also key players, right? You train them over the times for certain role and responsibility. Company plans the growth and scale on the basis of those team members. उनके बीच में ऐसे clashes होते हैं तो how do you handle and how do you maintain to retain them?
So one thing that I always ensure is that these clashes should not become personal at any point in time. अगर आप धंधे के बात पे क्लैश कर रहे हो तो it is absolutely fine. You should not get personal. Personal is like I'll start quoting example which are unfair. I'll start raising my voice. I'll start throwing tantrums. मतलब बच्चे थोड़ी हैं, ये सब नहीं चलेगा. अगर disagreement है, आप पूरा दिन निकालो. So interestingly, what I used to do was there was a time where I felt कि on floor friction बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है. तो like I can sense कि people are not come, and when you have teams, तो teams में दिखता है कि यार ops team, sales team से झगड़े करती रहती है, right? और product से तो हर कोई झगड़ा करता रहता है, right? So teams have that equations within them. So I said, okay, there's something going wrong. So I said, okay, let's do one thing. Let's do a full day offsite. Offsite में हम लोग बाहर जाते हैं, मस्ती वस्ती करते हैं, मस्ती वस्ती तो बहुत कर लेंगे, उसका टाइम निकल जाएगा. We had I forgetting the name. I had a very interesting name, like some immersion we called it, something we called it कि retro immersion ऐसा कुछ हमने करके बुलाया. And I called all the leaders. We sat around the table and we had a full presentation for each one of them. Everyone come and present what is working well, what is not working well. दो slide बनाओ आप और present करो. We had planned कि हम लोग ये वाला पूरा सेशन है, ये हम 9 बजे से स्टार्ट करेंगे, 1 बजे तक सबको आधे घंटे का टाइम देंगे, खत्म करेंगे, 1 बजे के बाद टीम बिल्डिंग एक्सरसाइज करेंगे. वो सेशन चला 2 दिन. फिर 2 दिन तक लोग लगे रहे, तो ये नहीं करता है, वो नहीं करता, ये नहीं हो रहा है, वो नहीं हो रहा है, ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है, एंड सेम पॉइंट्स अगेन कमिंग. एंड वी सेड ओके ठीक है, जितना भी है स्ट्रेस लेंगे. लाइक फर्स्ट डे 9 AM to 9 PM वी डिड डिनर किया. अगले दिन देन वी हैड टू एक्सटेंड द होटल फॉर अनदर डे. फिर हमने 9 AM to 9 PM किया. वी हैड लाइक होल like 10 page of action items that we got from that meeting. हम लोग लेके आए. The start team came and asked कि सर इनका क्या करना 10 पेजों का. मैंने कहा फेंक दो. लड़ाई करनी थी, हो गई. People know everyone's heart is at the right place. That is more important. Action item track करके कोई फायदा नहीं है. इस मीटिंग का कोई फायदा नहीं. This meeting was not to solve everything. This meeting was कि यार तुम जो पीछे बात कर रहे हो
सामने करो,
वो सामने करो एक दूसरे के. Like have that face, right? If you cannot say something on their face, don't say it. तो वो पर्पस था, वो हुआ, and then you move on, you do your life, and then things started getting better because now I know कि मेरे को कैसे उसको approach करना है person को, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm relating to it quite a few times with us as well, but we never called it an offsite. But हम पार्टी कर लेते थे. ज़्यादा हो रहा है, आज पार्टी कर लेते हैं. So now there is one question from the founder side, reverse problem. अभी आपने बात की retaining की. In a small place like Indore, there are few talented people. I mean, not in a few के 8-10, but there are, I would say, thousands. But हर कंपनी में कुछ लोग होते हैं जिनको हम बहुत लाड़ प्यार से सिखा के अच्छे से बड़ा करते हैं, समझाते हैं. But now other company poaches. This might happen in Bangalore. हम सिखाकर तैयार करते हैं, दूसरा कंपनी उसको ज़्यादा पैकेज देती है, and obviously sometimes they leave. बहुत बार हम रोक लेते हैं, but there are many times we couldn't. What do you think how this could be handled? Because उस टाइम पे ना बस आंसू ही नहीं आते और सब हो जाता है. होता है ऐसा? I mean, this is industry, not any industry specific question. It is general question that everyone faces.
No, very fair question, right? I can just share from my experience of 10 years. Um, as an individual, is a very emotional guy, right? Like I'm very attached to people. I work very well with people. So whenever people used to move on like this, I used to like be very upset, right? There were some hard calls I also did because I had to ask them to leave. Those were very toughest conversation. I still remember कि वो कैसा हुआ, first conversation कैसा था, second conversation कैसा था. These are tough conversations. When somebody is leaving, you do not want them to leave because you have invested in them, right? But because you have invested in them, you can't make them stop. There's a reason why they are leaving.
Right.
Either you identify proactively that this person is at flight risk and you manage that proactively, or you build the culture in a way that the person does not move out, right? The person moving out, either they are moving out from better package, mostly it is better package, but in my opinion, if I give you a perspective of like 10 years, I think it's okay. I think we take it too much to our heart कि यार बंदा जा रहा है यार. It's okay. Let them move out. If the person was not meant to be with you, and the person is saying कि मेरे को better package चाहिए ही चाहिए, मेरे को आप 10 लाख दे रहे हैं, मेरे को 12 लाख मिल रहा है, मैं जाऊंगा ही जाऊंगा, तो you can't make them stop. And the person is going to come back again after 3 months or 6 months. Right? So you can't, that cycle you cannot stop. It's okay because over a period of time, nobody is irreplaceable. Every single person in the company, you will find right people, you will find people who are more aligned to the vision, you will find people who will contribute to the culture and who will be going forward with you. If the person is moving on for whatever reason, that's okay. Like don't.
It's hard.
It's tough. I know it is tough for me. Like I still count those people at heart who I wanted to retain no matter what. And I did everything possible. I said I put an open offer on the table. मैंने कहा कि आपका जो भी कंपनी में ऑफर मिल रहा है, I'll match that. But it's a wrong precedence, right? आप उसको रोक लोगे पर बाकी 4 लोग देख रहे हैं कह रहे हैं कि यार हम नहीं इम्पोर्टेंट है क्या? उसने रिजाइन किया तो आप उसके पीछे पड़ गए, उसको आपने 50% हाइक दे दिया, हम नहीं इम्पोर्टेंट है. Sets a wrong precedence. So over time I've learned कि there are people who are born into vision, and I always tell this to my team, right? If you are with Razorpay and with me, in 4 years, everything is going to be taken care of. Your comp, your ESOPs, everything is going to be taken care of. You have to invest 4 years time. And if the growth is not happening or you're not happy with the comp, you're always like, you can always move out. But have an open conversation with me because I need to understand your expectations before you start applying outside. अगर वो बंदे ने मन बना लिया, like this is, by the way, this, I don't know how many of you have noticed this. If somebody comes to you and said, I have decided to move on, right? It is 99% that person is going to move out. तो आप अपना एनर्जी वेस्ट करोगे, उसके ऊपर बात करोगे, उससे पूरा आपको लगेगा कि बाद में हो गया, मैंने बढ़िया ऑफर दे दिया, रुक जाएगा वो. बट ही हैज ऑलरेडी डिसाइडेड, ही इज टेलिंग यू, हैज डिसाइडेड. But if the person is saying, I am thinking to move on because there are 3 things which I am not feeling right, then you can fix them.
So that comes to the place like, you need to give that space to your people where they can come to you and share, okay, this is what I'm thinking about, and this is where I'm not feeling fulfilled or satisfied in working here, right?
Yeah.
And people usually don't give this a space. So this is the takeaway, guys. We need to give this a space to our people where they can come and share with us, right, what exactly they are feeling while working with us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think people need to enjoy work, right? Like they should not look at it work. Normally we spend more than 60% of our time at work, right? आपका, once you start working, if you take out the sleeping hours, more than 60-70% of your time is at work. अगर वहाँ पे आप happy नहीं हो तो फिर आप नहीं हो happy. Like that person is going to move out. You have to create a culture where people are happy.
Right. During your session, you mentioned one thing about hiring CXOs. It is related to scaling up the company. Hiring CXO, understood, is one thing. But trusting that CXO and delegating a responsibility to a CXO is the toughest. Founders generally don't do this trust easily. How to do that? I mean, without trusting your leaders, you cannot definitely scale up the company.
So, see, the philosophy here, the answer is very clear, right? Like, if you have hired them, you have to trust them. Either don't hire. आप spend करो 2 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours. जितना time spend करना है, you spend the time. But once they are part of the family, they are part of the family. Then you cannot have two-way about it. You cannot be like, यार hire तो हो गया, but अब मैं फिर 6 महीने लगा के उसका trust evaluate करूंगा. That's not it. because the person also needs your trust to perform, and it becomes a vicious cycle because that if you are not able to trust your team, it's a recipe of disaster. You're automatically saying कि यार कोई भी बंदा हो like CXO हो या नहीं हो, if they don't have your trust, they can't perform. They can't perform. So you have to
Trust
like
them.
spend time of building that trust before the person joins, because that decision has to be before that person joins. If you're building
Option afterwards.
there's like wrong hires happen, like some mismatches usually happen, but you have to reduce that because every person you spend a lot of time in finding that right profile, going through multiple other profiles, getting them onboarded, getting selling them the vision. You spend that much of time, and then the person comes on board, and then you're like, भाई भरोसा नहीं हो रहा.
कर
Please.
पाएगा नहीं.
हाँ तो वो नहीं कर सकते हो. You can't afford. You're running a business, right? Like you're running a team. And if you cannot you cannot trust a head of a team, so it's going to be a major breakage issues.
So this is about Razorpay. I really need in fact we all are curious to know how is it uh, looks like working in a rapidly growing startup. I mean every other day that things are changing, there new challenges are happening. कि जो हम बाहर से देखते हैं दिस इज क्वाइट कंपनी है प्रोडक्ट है चल रहा है बट देयर इज सो मच गोइंग ऑन इनसाइड व्हिच नोबडी नोज and then there must be times when things went upside down and you guys must have handled because till now we haven't heard anything bad about Razorpay.
Many other बहुत
All the good things.
बहुत फटता है एकदम. So it's never be things are always rosy. It's about how you keep the composure outside. As a human, also you have multiple things going inside, but you will keep a composure. Multiple things happen. So just think of it this way, right? Because we are working on the banking ecosystem. Anything which goes wrong on the banking side, any major event that you can think of, right? Demonetization, UPI, there's a whole fiasco which happened around Yes Bank. Any big event that you will think of, that is going to have impact on fintechs. Another example of this is recently there are a lot of regulation which is coming. Co-branding, these are final nuances, but co-branding guidelines have come in. Then there are DLG guidelines. People who are part of that industry will understand that. So whenever such things happen, it would impact this, right? That you need to have two things are very important. One is you need to have a very strong compliance point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand: are you operating in black, white, or gray? Right? And there's no gray. If you are operating in gray, then that's black.
Mm-hmm.
Put that back in the black bucket. So you have to be very clear that compliance-wise, where do you stand? If RBI is saying or bank is saying that this is right, this is wrong, then you have to follow it. There is no
Right.
two way about it. Second is, what are your systems and processes internally? The shocks are going to come, but how's your foundation laid? Do you have right people to handle those shocks? Not every shock will have like founders involved. No, you can't go to and like run to your founders कि यार ये फट गया आप क्या करें? You are hired for a reason.
Right.
So you have to have a system, processes built in a way that every changes happen. So let's take an example. If tomorrow a new regulation comes in, that regulation has to go to a compliance team.
Right.
Compliance and legal team are going to review first. They'll dump it down for you. They'll say these are the 5 impacts in the organization. They'll assign the ownership. This is what ops team has to do. This is what product team has to do. This is what sales team have to do. Right? And then assign the ownership at an individual level and track it on month, or week on week, and see the progress and then decide an date and execute it. अब उसमें कुछ फट रहा है, then the escalation should happen.
बट करना तो है ही.
But there's no like so that वो फटता बहुत रहता है अंदर, क्योंकि एक people side फटेगा, एक system side फटेगा, process side फटेगा, but at the end of it, it's a job. Right?
So we discussed about what kind of problems a wrong hire can cause. I really want to know, like most of the people we hire for our team, and wrong hires we all know inevitable. But what is your definition of the right hire?
So if it's not a wrong hire, then it's a right hire probably. So you have to eliminate the wrong hires. So people are either awesome or trainable or should be moved out. Right? So you should always bucket them in that 3 aspects. You should say ki this is my big bet. This can potentially become a big bet tomorrow, and this I want to like execute faster. You need to have a strong performing cycle or system to constantly like figure out who are the So see, it's very easy to identify the bottom most of the performance. It's very easy. System is going to automatically throw them out. But people who are consistently at a moderate performance for a period of time, they tend to stick in the company and they sandbag a lot of things. So you have to create another system to identify people who have been moderate for 3 years, 2 years, right? कि 6 दिन में cycle हो गई भाई क्या कर रहे हो? Moderate ही रहोगे पूरे time. Then that means कि it's a red.
So can I assume that a right hire is not just one time thing, it's a journey that over the period of time you realize like this is a right hire for the company.
Yeah, and everyone needs a feedback, right? Even a right hire would need a feedback. I've seen the people who are most awesome. So there are people with spark, right? Like people who are exceptionally smart, exceptionally like well composed and well like they know things in and out. But you'll still find that hey, probably this person is not good with people, right? Because that smart people, the smartest of the person in the room, they'll likely evaluate everyone else in the same uh, pedigree, and that's going to let the team down. So you have to give that feedback to them कि आप awesome हो, but बाकी टीम को उस पैरामीटर पे मत जज करो. उनसे भी काम करवाना है आपको, तो उनसे भी काम करो.
Right.
So you find the awesome people, you find the coachable people who you can get there, but feedback goes throughout.
Everyone is different.
Yes.
Right. So, last two questions. One is, what are the kind of takeaways that people from and the founders of Indore can take it from your journey, from Razorpay journey, and from this conversation? And second, what is your next plan for the founders of Indore?
No, I think I love this community. I love that how you have played a key role in nurturing this community, and very grateful for like people like you and Mayank who spend a lot of time with people and like create that community because it it like that organic part of it. Sometimes people can miss out. Like you would have done it in a. I seen your 10 years of journey. I seen that what you have done. We would want to be associated with this. We have always admired the companies which have come here. Would love to keep coming back. Please drop me an email. Happy to speak to you. Happy to come on a call. Happy to come back again to Indore and in any capacity and like be part of this community.
Thanks, Ayush. Thanks for